I'm Captain Finn, and welcome to this edition of How to Forgotten Coast Like a Local. Now, we got a treat for you today. For those of you that like culture, we're going to take you on a little tour of some of the museums we've got right here on the Forgotten Coast. So all I have to say is move over, Moma, because we've got historic homes at our museums. We got museums by lighthouses. We even have an old City Hall building that's a museum that has this huge prehistoric oyster. So come along with me, Captain Finn, and we're gonna see some great museums today. Hello? I start my tour today at the Rainey House in Apalachicola, and while I check out this historic home, I'm going to tell you about a few of our other museums throughout our beautiful county. The Orman House Historic State Park was the home of Thomas Orman, cotton merchant and businessman in Apalachicola. And this beautifully preserved home features details of both the Federal and Greek Revival styles and sits on the highest point in Apalachicola. There are many original family artifacts throughout the home, including the dining table, and the original home was only 4 rooms, with additional rooms added on throughout the years. There's also a judge's chamber because one of the family members served as a local judge. Now, other artifacts include family clothing, including a pair of pajamas with an emergency back hatch. Can you believe it? And for you ghost enthusiasts, the Orman House is not to be missed. Local legend says, although the land is now publicly owned, some of the Orman family members may have never left. And witnesses have heard unexplained footsteps and sounds in the night. And if you go, you tell the ghosts Captain Finn sent you. The Orman House Historic State Park Museum is located at 177 5th Street in Apalachicola. Is there a doctor in the house? Yes, there is. Dr. John Gorey, that is. The Dr. John Gorey State Park Museum is located in Gorey Square in Apalachicola and honors the father of modern air conditioning. Now, Dr. Gorey used ice to help his yellow fever patients. The museum features displays on how Dr. Gorey cooled the rooms, the instruments he used as a medical doctor, and there's also a working replica of his ice machine on a much smaller scale. Now, don't break out your cups just yet because this machine does not make ice, but it does take you through the process. There are also patent drawings on his ice machine, as well as other local and state of Florida displays. And the museum is located at 46 6th Street in Apalachicola.
Can't you read? This is Rainey Family China. Do not touch.
I could read nautical maps. The Apalachicola National Estuarine Research Reserve Nature Center is one stop you don't want to miss, especially if you got kids. There you can learn about the Apalachicola River and Bay and the diverse flora and fauna of the Forgotten Coast. And inside the Nature Center, you'll find 3 giant tanks filled with fish, shellfish, and reptiles. And there is also a Bay Discovery Room in which they have hundreds of skeletons, fossils, and preserved marine life to explore and examine up close. Historic artifacts depict early industries of the area, and you can listen to oral histories that provide first-hand accounts from local oyster harvesters, oyster dealers, crabbers, and shrimpers. Visitors can also explore a 1/3 of a mile raised boardwalk that traverses the Nature Center's 28 acres. Now on the boardwalk, you'll experience coastal hammocks shaded by live oaks and magnolia trees that opens up into a freshwater marsh and a stand of slash pine. There's also a plant guide is available to help identify some of the more common species. The Apalachicola National Estuarine Research Reserve is located at 108 Island Drive in East Point. Do you love lighthouses? Well, we've got them too. we are one of the only counties in the entire state of Florida that has count them, two working lighthouses. The first sits on the eastern end of the county at Carabel Beach, and that's the Crooked River Lighthouse, and it stands on the mainland where it was originally built in 1895. The 103-foot iron and steel structure beams nightly. There is also a Keeper's House Museum, which features nautical exhibits and a gift shop for those of you who love trinkets. Located in the center of St. George Island is the Cape St. George Lighthouse, which once stood on Little St. George Island. The museum features maps dating back to the 1800s, which shows the various locations of where the lighthouse once stood, as well as a replica lens that was once used in the lighthouse. There are also photos and artifacts from keepers who were once stationed at the lighthouse on Little St. George. And you can visit the Lighthouse Gift Shop, which features artwork, jewelry, and more from local artisans. Both the Crooked River Lighthouse and the St. George Lighthouse offer lighthouse tours as well as full moon climbs, and you can contact them personally for a tour schedule.
You really have to ask before you can play the 1840s grand piano.
Can I play it?
If you can play, sure.
We go a little more eastward, and now we find ourselves at the Carabel History Museum, which is housed in the original Carabel City Hall. They have some fascinating exhibits that feature prehistoric Native Americans who called Carabel home thousands of years ago. And there's also a 20,000-year-old oyster shell that you can even hold. Plus the history of how Carabel became the biggest international port in the state of Florida. And the museum also houses the original world's smallest police station, which is a great photo op. There's also a display on the local steamship that served Carabel in the early 1900s, which eventually sank. And for the baseball enthusiast, there is a display about the famous players who once called Carabel home. There's a room dedicated to Carabel's seafood industry as well. And throughout the year, the museum features special exhibits that you don't want to miss. And you can visit the museum for yourself at 106 Southeast Avenue B in downtown Carabel.
What are you doing? This settee was original to the house. Visitors can't do that.
For you World War II buffs or anyone who loves military history, the Camp Gordon Johnston World War II Museum is a must-see. It's located across from Carabel Beach and was established to honor and preserve the heritage of the men and women who trained at the camp during World War II. Camp Gordon Johnston opened in 1942 for the sole purpose of training infantry divisions and their support units in amphibious operations by U.S. Army Engineer Special Brigades. Now that's a mouthful, but the museum houses hundreds of artifacts from Camp Gordon Johnston, and there's also a mock-up of the local barracks, plus a half-scale model of the Higgins boat used for amphibious landings. Though the museum is mostly dedicated to World War II, you can also find artifacts from other conflicts, including the Civil War. The Camp Gordon Johnston Museum is located at 1873 Highway 98 West, right at Carabel Beach. And last but certainly not least, back to where the tour started today, the Rainey House Museum in Apalachicola. This stately Greek Revival house was built in 1836 and is listed on the National Register of Historic Homes. City of Apalachicola purchased it in 1973 and established the Rainey House Museum. This three-story home took 4 years to build and includes marble fireplaces imported from Italy. And they have artifacts that belong to the Rady family, including a sofa, family china, and artwork. And the second floor features 2 bedrooms with clothing of the time period and other artifacts. Boy, if these walls could talk. Please don't, at least not to me. Whew, that was a close one. Well, the Rainey House is located at 128 Market Street in downtown Apalachicola.
Well, I hope I didn't get in too much trouble today on this museum tour, and I hope you all had a great time seeing the museums that we have right here in our little piece of paradise. Now, if you want to know more about the museums here on the Forgotten Coast, why don't you check it out at floridasforgottencoast.com. That's going to be about right here on the TV screen, and you tell them your friend Captain Finn sent you. We'll see y'all on the next edition of How to Forgotten Coast Like a Local.
Sir, it is not 5 o'clock yet.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.